Hello there, fellow YouTubers. My name is Danny. I'm very new to YouTube, but on this particular day I got very bored, so I thought I was going to do something pretty cool for all of you. So I made a mock draft right now. I know the fantasy drafting season hasn't started yet, but my team is pretty good, and I'm going to show you how you want to make a good team on a fantasy mock draft. It's crucial, though, that you take safe picks, and you always want to get value for players in the late round, and that's how I build my teams. I've won 3 championships in 4 years playing fantasy football, so I know a little bit about how the business goes, and I can show you how to make a good team. I think the team I made today was pretty good, so let's get to it. I have some nifty note cards, and I'll point them to you at the moment. Alright, so my quarterbacks, Tony Romo and Ben Roethlisberger. You always want your backup to have a different bye week than your starter. I know a lot of you don't like Tony Romo because he's Tony Romo. I can't blame you. He annoys me as well. But the fact of the matter here is that Tony Romo, the 4th most fantasy points among quarterbacks last year in the NFC, and he just tears up defenses. He had over 5,000 yards last year. He gets good stats. Guess what round I got him? I got him late 7th or 8th round. I don't completely remember, but never draft a quarterback in the first round unless you're going for Aaron Rodgers. That's the only quarterback I'll allow you to draft in the first round. There's so much value. I got Ben Roethlisberger in the 9th round, so I mean you can see how long these guys hang around. Roethlisberger obviously won't play much. He'll only be in when Romo gets injured / has a bye week. So, but you want to draft the best player possible because he'll fill in well, and also you can compile some trade value with that. Alright, so we'll switch the note cards now. Alright, here are my running backs. Now, I had the 1st overall pick, which is not something I like to get, but it was the best thing available. I could have either taken the 2nd or the 7th overall. So I decided to take Adrian Peterson. Obviously, the guy's a stud. He had 2,000 yards rushing last year. He's going to continue to get the ball as he is the Vikings' best option. All my running backs have different bye weeks. I also got Frank Gore, the next immediate pick. There are a lot of guys in the backfield there in San Francisco, but Frank Gore is always going to get his touches around the goal line, which means a lot of touchdowns for you. And I picked Darrell Richardson as my backup. A lot of you probably don't know who he is, but he's a starter now for the Rams that Steven Jackson's out in Atlanta, and that was the only starting running back available at the time, so I just took my bet with consistency there. One thing about running backs, though, I got Adrian Peterson and Frank Gore my 1st and 2nd pick. Now, I know Frank Gore is not someone you want to get second, but running backs are the most highly valued players in fantasy football, and you always want to get them as early as you can because it gets difficult trying to pick them in the late rounds. You're going to end up with some bad running backs if you do that, so pick running backs as early as possible. Always try to take one in the 1st round. Alright, now we will switch the focus over to wide receivers. My 1st pick at wide receiver was A.J. Green. He's obviously a monster, gets a lot of feeds from Andy Dalton. They really like him down in Cincinnati. He has a slight injury, but he's definitely going to be back week 1. You shouldn't worry about that. Steve Smith is Cam Newton's favorite target. He's going to get touches around the goal line. Really, the Panthers don't have many better players to throw the ball to. Safe bet there. Torrey Smith is now going to be the 1 receiver in Baltimore now that Anquan Bolden's out the door, and with Jim Caldwell's new offense, the Ravens are going to try to throw down the field, and Torrey Smith is a speed monster. DeAndre Hopkins, I can't fill him in for Torrey Smith's bye week, but this guy is going to be great. He's going to be the only receiver second to Andre Johnson, so Matt Schaub is going to want to throw the ball to him a lot. They run a lot of play-action flares, and they'll always have someone down the field on those play actions. This guy is just like Torrey Smith. He's a speedy, and he's going to get a lot of touches for the Texans, I believe, this year. He's kind of a wild card, though. He's not really the safest pick. Overall, my wide receiver core is pretty good, but I was aiming for Reggie Wayne instead of Steve Smith, but he was picked right before I got him. If you can get Reggie Wayne around 4th or 5th round, that's always a good thing. Andrew Luck really likes his veteran receiver, and he's going to throw to him a lot. And Reggie Wayne had 13 touchdowns last year, so that's some fantasy value for you. Now we're going over to tight ends. We've got Jason Witten and Owen Daniels. Notice that I'm keeping the bye weeks away from each other with these backups and starters. Jason Witten is the most reliable tight end, in my opinion, in the NFL. He had the most receptions among tight ends last year, and Tony Romo loves his safety blanket. Don't forget that 21-catch game he had against the Giants. And Owen Daniels, again, part of a play-action offense in Houston. Tight ends will get a lot of throws. He's just a very consistent player. He's not going to give you 15 to 20 points every game, but he's very consistent. He'll get you a good amount. That's my backup. You got to have a solid one. My kicker, you don't need to draft a backup kicker. You can go 1 week without a kicker, or you could just get a free agent and put him in for that day. But kickers are obviously the least important players on fantasy. Now, I had some really good kickers on the board at the moment, but I took David Akers because he's on the Detroit Lions now. And the reason I did that is because a kicker, you shouldn't always draft a kicker based on his stats. It's really just the kind of offense he's in, and obviously the Lions aren't going to put up 40 points every game, so he's going to get a lot of cracks at the field goal, and they do score some touchdowns, which means extra points for you as well. They're probably one of the best kicker-friendly offenses when it comes to fantasy football, so I took him. And my defensive teams. Defensive teams are actually probably the most underrated teams you can have. Seattle had the third best overall defense last year and the best special teams, so they're clearly the best team here. They'll get you a ton of points, and the Texans have a very stacked defense. If they get everyone back healthy, they'll be great. Extreme depth, and either one of these two teams I can play on any given week based on the offense they're playing, and I'll get a good amount of points. But defensive teams are basically the wild cards. They'll get the job done, and if you have a good one, they'll cost you a lot of points. My brother won his fantasy league last year, and he had the Bears defense. He just kept getting turnovers, so defenses are always important, even though they don't look that way. Now I'll give you a couple tips before I go. As I reminded you earlier, you don't want to have a quarterback in the first round. My suggestion is that you always go for running backs early. A couple sleeper picks. You want to get Chris Ivory from the New York Jets. He's probably going to be the number one, and he runs with some serious aggression, so he's going to be hard to tackle. And the Jets are looking to run the ball a little more this year. Also, for defensive teams, my top three would have to be Seattle, San Francisco, and Chicago, mainly because those teams cause a lot of turnovers, and San Francisco obviously had the best overall defense. And big one here, there are some running backs. As I said, the running backs are the highest valued players in fantasy football. When you look at the top of the list, the running backs will always be there, even in 4th or 5th round. But if you see guys like Lamar Miller, you definitely don't want to go for them. Don't go for people who you don't know they're starting. Shane Vereen, Le'Veon Bell, Lamar Miller, just to name a few. They're going to get some touches, but we don't know that they're going to start. You always want a starting running back, so that's why I picked Darrell Richardson. Most of all, have fun with your fantasy league, but make sure to be very proactive with it. Things change every week, and if you are serious about winning your fantasy league, you got to be logging on every day, making changes. And also, last thing, you need to stack your bench so you can get trade offers down the season if necessary. And that's pretty much all I got for you today. Thanks for watching, and hit a like button, give me a comment, and I can put up some more tips if you have questions. Thank you.